Hello my audience, today I have a book review for you, Robert Harris' Fatherland. And this is from my backlog. I have had this book for like 3 years I think at this point. I never got around to it, but now I didn't have new books really coming in, so I decided that maybe I will read this one. And I'm glad I did, but it's understandable why I didn't read this book, because it's not very good. It's hailed as something great, but isn't every book hailed as something great, at least on the back of the book? And it's hailed as something great, but I don't think that it's a great book. It's well written in a sense that you can read it in one sitting if you're ready to read it. And it's not too hard or thought-provoking maybe, but at the same time, I just feel that this book lacks so much substance, and I don't know if it's very a good depiction of those times, but it's an alternative history, or that's what it poses as to be. And I'm not really sure if I understood this story very correctly, but it's supposed to be a detective story, but the characters are pretty weak. He has some pretty clever kind of description going on in this book. The description is pretty autistic. I don't mean autistic in a sense that it's not good, but I'm going to mean that it's just so cut and dry description. There's nothing artistic really here. And it's interesting that he also talks about the art history aspect of the World War II and the Germans, how you could even say they protected some of the paintings so they wouldn't get destroyed by the wars. He even touches upon the Germans dealing with degenerate art. It was the Nazi Party was really against the modern art movement, or that's how they posed as to be. But they actually held an exhibition in Berlin, I think, before the war that featured modern art. And then there was another exhibition that was more, national socialistic. What is it called? Really, like fascistic. Like hailing those cultural values through realism, mostly. And it might have been because the Americans were all about, the freedom painting and the modern art. So maybe it was about that. I don't know. I don't really care too much about that. I don't deem Germans very high in many ways. They have great companies, they can make great products, but also they are, I don't deem that race very high, But it's okay. This book was okay, and yeah, like what can I say? What can I say about it? I understand why I didn't read this book. It just wasn't very. It felt very relaxing actually on the first pages to start to read this book, but then at some point you kind of go in your mind like, holy shit, this is not so much your mind wandering book as some other books, but it's like on the halfway mark over there. So many writers are, the mind wanderer type of writers. You read those guys and your mind is like everywhere but in the story. And I dig that. It gives the brain a lot of space to like process stuff when you read fiction like that. It's beneficial, I think, some writers. But over here it's not like that. It's not too visual, and the characters are weak and not very fleshed out, and the scenes you don't see very clearly either. And yeah, like, is it a good book? It's a bestseller, but you know, I deem that there's a lot of books published in this world that, you know, you can see that it's a great writer in many ways, but at the same time you can also kind of understand that he has not taken writing to the artist level yet, and maybe that wasn't his goal at all. I don't know, but I'm still glad that I read this book, you know, Fatherland, Robert Harris. In no way interested in reading more from this author based on this book. Nah. But I'm glad I did go through this. Finally. You know, as a last note, I'm going to tell you that I have a lot of books that I have never gotten around to reading. Probably something like 50 to 70 books that I have never read. I have. And I'm going to tell you that if you buy books, never get rid of them before you have read them. And don't get rid of them even if you have read them, you know. Books are that kind of stuff, you know. It can take years before you get to some book. And I love it when you kind of, you know, rekindle your like appreciation for a writer after you have not read the book for a while, or you start reading some book like this and you start kind of like understand why you didn't read it through when you were younger or that kind of stuff. For some books you have to be a little older to read them, but I would still recommend that you buy them. You know, just buy all the books you can. You can never really waste your money if you read. That's what I felt. Yeah, I love reading. So that's it. Thanks for watching.